I wanted to go through some historical kind of anecdotes of what drove me to first believe that fractional work could be highly effective. And some of these are my experiences. I'll start there actually with one of my own experiences as a fractional developer. And so this would have been, the year was probably 2007 and 2007, 2008 in that time frame. This was at AT&T. And so what were we doing? I was at that time, I was full-time employed at Oracle, but I had a job where I was doing, call it one business trip per month, where I would go away to a client for, say, a week at a time. And the other 3 weeks, I was usually working from home. So I had some flexibility and had some capacity in those kind of down times. And then the weeks whenever I was on site, I was, pretty swamped. And I got bored and decided, you know what, why don't I do some fractional work? So I picked up a contract at AT&T locally in Atlanta. Now, the particular need, well, I'll sketch it out for you like this. This being like, 17 years ago, it's not like we were all working from home in those days. The expectation as a contractor was that I was going to come into the AT&T office daily. And so I did, but I knew on day one that I was flying out toward the end of that month. I had 3 weeks. So I had 3 weeks in this scenario, 3 weeks to proof, essentially to a proof point. Could I establish that I was a meaningful enough contributor in 3 weeks that come the tail end of that 3 weeks, I was going to tell my manager that, hey, you know what, I've got to fly every now and then for another, thing that I work on. And if that's a problem, then, I'll just adjourn here. But I wanted to prove that I could do this. And so what was I given? So we were working on a DSL, an automated DSL testing system. So DSL, if you remember what that was high-speed internet when internet was still slow. But anyway, this was the solution that was being rolled out, at a large scale at that time. And AT&T wanted to build automated testing systems to ensure that their DSL was reliable. When customers would call in, they wanted to automate the testing process to understand where the issue was, so that human techs didn't have to get involved at every step of the way. This would increase throughput on the customer service side. That was the idea. Now here's the problem. The system that we built, this what I'll call DSL testing system, what was its throughput in that initial version that I was brought in to help fix? So its throughput was, I guess I'll call it the performance at the time, equaled about 6, what I'll call transactions, to use common tech parlance, per minute. So that meant it could only handle 6 customers a minute, which is like absurdly bad. You're talking about AT&T, which one of the largest providers of internet access at that time, getting thousands of calls, maybe tens of thousands of calls per hour at times, particularly if there was an outage or downtime or anything like that. And so handling 6 per minute, or what is that, 360 per hour, is laughable. What kind of system is that? How does that help? Humans can easily handle that. So this was the situation I was coming into. So what did I do? It turned out that the system that had been built that I came into was what's called a state machine. So it had all of these different states that, depending on where it was in the testing process, you would go and be in the different states, meaning, okay, we've done test number 1, now we make it to the situation where, okay, that module is working. Now we do test number 2, which determines whether module, we need to look at module 3 or we need to look at module 4, and we kind of figure out where the bug is. That was kind of how the system was built. Now, what I ended up doing was what's called profiling, and I sort of had to dig into the system very quickly and determine that, actually, the performance bottleneck is right here, and it turns out it's because of some really horrible SQL queries and database structure. That is probably the number one performance culprit you see in so many systems, but that's what it was. And so I was able to pinpoint that, fix the particular issue. This was the first of many fixes, but fix that particular issue, and we went from 6 transactions a minute. We went with that one fix to 600 per minute. Okay, so we got 100x out of one fix. And from there, we 10x'd it again by making more detailed improvements across the entirety of the state machine, including ripping most of the state machine out and moving to a simplified architecture. Whole other story. But at any rate, 600 a minute from 6 a minute. This was what I used as my case to prove that, hey, fractional work, me being there a lot of the time, but not being there all the time, I could still add a ton of value to this team. And it sold my boss there at the time on the idea, and he was like, yeah, man, whatever works. So he was willing to flex around it. And then from my own perspective, I realized that, hey, yeah, I can do this. And I ended up being there for almost 2 years prior to founding Hidden Levers. And so this was an early proof point that fractional work, when you bring the right person in with senior experience, they can help fix something that sometimes has been festering for months in a matter of weeks.